We went food shopping yesterday and I spotted some reduced asparagus over here, and I thought, I can make some pasta with bacon and asparagus. I'll very briefly run you through the ingredients. This is a really simple and quick recipe, and it doesn't take more than 20 minutes to make. So I'm choosing some spirals as pasta goes. It's one of Julie's favorites, but you can use any pasta you like, of course. This is grana padano. You can also use some Parmesan cheese if you wish. Got some bacon, 75 grams, 1 egg. Also I've got here half a leek, which is already clean. Obviously my asparagus, olive oil, salt and pepper, and some water to boil the pasta. And that is pretty much the extent of the ingredients. I've just washed the asparagus, and regardless of how I cook them, I always do this, as asparagus tend to be very, very soft at the top, especially the tip, but as you progressively get down to the end, they get very tough and actually very woody. So I'm going to remove the peel from 10 centimeters from the top down roughly, so that I can discard it. And if you've got a potato peeler, it's ideal for this job. Just gently turn the asparagus with your left hand, and you'll see that in no time at all you get a beautiful and clean stem, just like this. So this is as it is, and this is without the peel. Using my knife, I'm going to square the top, and about 6 to 7 centimeters from the top, and I'll cut them over here. And this is the very, very tender part. I'll put them on one side. With the remainder, there are two parts. So I'll start by chopping the top part in relatively large circles, just like this, and I progressively go down. And as I go down and the asparagus get tougher and bigger, I'm making my circles slightly smaller. This will enable to cook at the same time. But as I reach the end, about a couple of centimeters, 2 to 3 centimeters from the end, I'll stop, as this is really tough, so obviously we don't want to eat that. That can go in the bin. This is the same water I will be using to cook my pasta, so I'll start by adding a teaspoon of salt, followed by my little tips from the asparagus. They can go in, and I will leave them to cook for about 7 minutes, and then I'll get them out. I want them to be al dente, hard to bite. Obviously, using the same water will flavorize my pasta even more with the taste of asparagus. I'm using a separate board to chop my bacon, so I do not cross-contaminate. And next I will be cooking this. So here is a frying pan. I'll add some olive oil, a little, because bacon is quite fat anyway, and this will be the same saucepan which I will be using eventually to mix my pasta, so make sure that it's big enough, and I'll add my bacon. In the meantime, I've sliced my leek, but of course you can also use either a red or a white onion. But if you do have access to leek, even better, as the flavour is a little bit more velvety and it goes really well with this dish. So my bacon is done. I'll move it onto a little plate first. I do have a little foundation from the bacon, but I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil, as I will need now to fry my asparagus. So in it goes. These are obviously the stems which I chopped earlier. In the meantime, 7 minutes have passed and my asparagus tips can come out of the water. You can see that the water has got that beautiful green tingy colour, which is what I wanted, so that I can cook my pasta in there, so that can come out. And alongside my asparagus I can also add my sliced leek, and I will leave them to sizzle together for a couple of minutes. Back to my cooking water, I'm going to pinch a good ladle and move it over here, and I will continue cooking it now for another 5 minutes. And I'm sure that I'm there because my asparagus were not very thick. However, before you continue, just get hold of one of the largest pieces and taste it. Yeah, it's perfect. It's just hard to bite and it's wonderful. But if you've got larger asparagus, the likelihood is that you're going to need it to cook it for longer, so you might need a little bit more water, so you'll have to adjust it. But I'm ready to move on to the next step now, and I'll just turn this off quickly. So I'm going to move all of my cooked asparagus and leek in a little jug over here. I don't need to wash this yet, as we're going to need it again. So back to my water, and I'm going to move a second ladle now here with my cooked asparagus and leek, and I've got a little blender over here, and I'm going to blend this all together until I get a lovely soft smooth cream. I almost forgot, I didn't even mention it at the beginning, apologies. Parsley. This is when you need to add some parsley to your cream, so obviously you can still do it. So I'm gonna add a generous handful of parsley over there, and I'll carry on mixing. And here you have it, a beautiful green colour sauce with speckles of parsley. I keep my parsley in the freezer, and I normally get it out at the very last minute, otherwise it will defrost. That's why I often forget to mention it, but anyway, I did remember. So, next job is to put this back on, and let's get the water back to the boil. No need to add any more salt, as we already salted the water when we cooked the asparagus sticks, and the pasta can go in. And I'll cook this until it's almost al dente, so about 1 to 2 minutes before al dente. That means that if the pasta requires, for example, 8 minutes to be totally cooked based on the manufacturer's instructions, you cook it for 6. At the same time, I'll go ahead and move my sauce back into my pan, and I'll turn this back on, but on a low temperature so that it can start gently reheating. While I wait, I'm going to separate the yolk from the white from my one egg. So here is the white, and the yolk is what I'm going to be eating today. So my pasta is nearly cooked, and I'm going to start moving it into my sauce. I'm going to use one of those ladles with the holes, and I do not mind if I carry a little bit of water, as I will be adding some more water in a moment. And I think I pretty much got it all. So before I continue, I'll get my ladles back, and I'm going to add another ladle of my water, which now has got also the starches from the pasta, and that's great, as it's going to make it lovely and creamy. And I'm going to turn the temperature up here. And keep an eye on it, ensure that you've got enough liquid in there so that you can finish cooking the pasta. This step is actually really important, as the pasta is not totally cooked, and it will be absorbing the flavour from my sauce. So it's been in there for about a minute, so I'm going to taste it first to see if it's cooked. 1 more minute, and I'm there. I can turn this off now and finish the dish. So next job is to add the egg. Even if the heat is off, do not worry, as the heat from the pasta will cook the egg, followed by half of my bacon, and I will leave the asparagus tip for the top to garnish the dish. And I'll mix this all together, and you will see that the egg will cook immediately. But also, if you are not comfortable in using egg, you don't have to. It will make the pasta a little bit creamier and softer. And that is perfect. I can now add my cheese, about a couple of tablespoons. One final mix, and I will be ready to serve. Adding the cheese now is quite important, by the way. Do not add it whilst you're cooking the pasta, otherwise it'll get stuck to your pan, and also it'll taste better. I did tell you it was going to be very quick and very easy. As you can see, I'm not dishing, so I'll lift some of the pasta, but I've got quite a bit of the sauce here, so I'm going to tilt this over and make sure that I will catch some of the sauce as well, and I can go on top of my pasta over here. I'm now sprinkling a little bit of the bacon, and I'll finish the plate with a few of my asparagus tips, which I made earlier, and this is ready. And I'll pick a little bit of everything to try and see what it's like. If you have never tried it, make it, honestly. So simple, so delicious, and also quite economical in the scheme of things. So I'm very pleased. Thank you for watching. See you later. Ciao, ciao.